The advice and opinions expressed by Dr. Granpeesheh and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here in the studio today and look who's here live in the studio. It's very exciting.
It is, since we haven't been here in a while. I haven't been here in a while.
Well, and then I do it remote too when you do it remote. So it's an extra thrill. It's always thrilling to talk to you, but when here you have a vibe that you give out. You do.
It's great to be here.
It pumps the volume up. So we're so excited. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh for Ask Dr. Doreen. If you've never seen this show before, I'm so excited for you because you're going to be really thrilled. Dr. Doreen is an expert in the field of autism. She's been working in this field for more than 45 years, which, how? From the crib? But it's true. And I always say, there is no one that I have met, and I've met a lot of people, who is more concerned about the welfare for the individuals on the spectrum and for the people who love them. I swear you can see around corners, you see things coming before the rest of us do. It frightens me sometimes. And there must be a painting aging under your bed. But we're thrilled that she's here. She donates this time, this hour to you guys so that you can ask questions in real time. We always start with a topic, and our topic today is going to be romance, dating, and relationships on the spectrum, but she'll answer questions about anything. The lines are open right now. We are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and about a dozen other places. And our fabulous, incredible producer, Chris Desmond, is going to be showing you on the screen some of the different ways that you can connect. It's really about how do you want to connect with the content that we've been creating for over 15 years.
Yes.
There's two different YouTube channels, but if you're watching this show, you want to go to the one that's Ask Dr. Doreen. You can see 15 years of Dr. Granpeesheh answering questions there. You can search and see if maybe your question's already been answered. But if it hasn't, we'll take live questions right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And you can always write to me if you're watching this, because most of you, we know, are listening in podcast. That's the reality. And when you listen in podcast, you're listening and consuming the content when you want to. So if you're like, how would I get a question in? All you have to do is email me, and that's Shannon at autism-live.com. You can send that question to me whenever you want, and I will squeeze it into the next show. We always have some starter questions, and sometimes when I pick the topics by what people have been writing in recently. So, but we'll take any topic at any time. Excuse me. Now I'm going to have a frog in my throat. Okay. Because I'm excited. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I'm excited to be here with you. So the other thing I want to tell you is when you're listening in podcast, it's a free download wherever you get your podcasts. We're Spotify, all the different places Chris is showing you. But sometimes there's going to be ads, and that's how we make it free for you. Now, some of you prefer to listen to it without the ads. There's an easy way to do that. You can go to glow.fm/autismlive. Now, when you subscribe, it's $5 a month, and you get everything that we do here, Ask Dr. Doreen, Autism Live, the Parent to Parents, everything that we do. If we do a live event coverage, it gets sent to you in your inbox for $5 a month, and it's free of ads. So if that's your jam, do that. Otherwise, download the free podcast. I think I have covered almost everything. I want to remind everybody, we're telling you to save the date, because this year on actual Halloween, it's is it the 5th?
Mm-hmm.
The 5th
I think it's
annual?
the 5th, yeah.
5th annual All Ghouls Gala, off the chain party here in Los Angeles that raises money for autism care today. So save the date. Hi, Rodney. So thrilled to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. Okay, so I think I've covered all of that stuff. We're excited to have you guys here. The topic, as I mentioned, is romance, dating, and relationships on the spectrum. Anything you want to say about that before I launch into the first question?
No, go right ahead. It's a great topic.
Okay, so the first question here, my son is 12, diagnosed at 3. We have tried to do everything we could to set him up for success. He's doing really well. But I'm realizing that we have not done anything about love, sex, and dating. I don't even know where to begin. Are there classes for parents to teach us what we need to teach our kids? I love that this parent is thinking of this at 12.
I know, me
because-
too. That's amazing. It's actually really good to think about it early, right? If you think
Yeah.
about it, because if we don't teach the right things, our kids might do things that are not taken properly.
Yes.
You know, so there's that side of it too.
Yes.
Originally, when we were talking about this topic, I thought we're going to get more into techniques and how an individual on the spectrum can actually date.
Yeah.
Right? But this kind of makes me think more initially about just the things to get our kids thinking about it. I honestly am not sure, and it'll be very different, I think, for everyone, what age you should start talking about it. Because I think girls tend to get interested in romance type stuff earlier than boys. And boys, for example, a 12-year-old boy, you might have to talk about it in multiple different ways. So I'm not sure that a 12-year-old boy, you might be attracted to someone, but most 12-year-old boys will still consider the topic or concept of being with someone else to be gross, right? They're still at that stage where it's kind of like, ooh, what are you talking about? But physically, physiologically, they will be pretty active. Boys will be, and they will have the hormones have come in now, and so they're kind of like, what do I do with this? So I think if it's possible, you will need to discuss, and it could have been much earlier, right? Like that topic. And so you will separate from love and relationships and so on. You'll need to have a conversation if possible. And some of our kids are not at the point where they can understand a kind of, detailed conversation on this topic. But if your child is, someone will need to have that conversation with your child about the physiology of their body and how it's changing and what the hormones do and what sexual, activities go on in your body and your whole body, just understanding that. That's very different than the social aspect of a relationship, but I think that's just as important because that then ties into things like privacy and just basic concepts of, who can have access to your private parts and not. I know that we even had lessons for this because there were kids who were, for a child on the spectrum, and I'm going completely now off.
No,
but I'm just
I think
talking
you're
kind
right
of
on
about
the
the
topic.
things that come to mind, right? Because, what happens a lot of times is that we don't cover these topics with our kids and then they don't quite know what's going on and something bad might be going on. And we don't want to ever be in a situation where our child, something happens and they're not able to, they don't know that they should tell us because they don't even know if it's good or bad.
Yes.
So talking about their own body and then, the issue, the definition of privacy and who, it's one thing to show your private parts, let's say, to your parent or to a doctor as opposed to anyone else is very, very important conversation to have, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's one whole aspect of it. Am I missing anything on that section before we get into the kind of...
No, but I'm so glad that you brought that up because I'm hearing Eustacia Cutler, who's, Temple Grandin's, Dr. Temple Grandin's mother. It was many years ago now, probably 12 years ago, that she was talking to somebody and said, it's so important. Too often we infantilize. Infantilize. Thank you. Our teenagers on the spectrum, instead of giving them the knowledge that they need to, and to disastrous results.
Right.
And everybody took so much issue with what she had to say about it, but it came at a time that was very important for me as a parent that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know that it had registered with me that we need to be having these conversations, and that we need to not wait until our child shows us, it's sort of the reverse of the potty training.
Yes.
We want to wait until they're showing us with their body that they're ready to potty train
Right.
for potty training, but we don't want to wait for that when we're talking about sex ed and privacy and what the parts are. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise we leave them in a place where on both sides of it that they can be taken advantage by, and we know that there are people out there taking advantage.
100%.
But also be in a position where they may do something that makes people think that they're somebody who is
Like they need to stay away from. Is that what you mean? Yes.
yeah, I mean,
yes.
we've had instances where kids don't realize, because when they were little,
Right.
they could run around naked and nobody did anything.
100%. Oh
And-
my God. I'm
and-
so glad you're saying this.
Right? But now they're 13 years old.
Yeah.
And, I can think of one parent who, called me hysterical because they went to the IHOP.
Yeah.
And their 13-year-old son came out of the bathroom fully exposed.
Yeah.
And there was a woman, a blue-haired woman who, had a heart attack and was like,
Oh my gosh.
this is, he flashed me.
Yeah.
A 13-year-old on the spectrum, and so making sure that we get there ahead of things.
It's so important what you're talking about. I'll give you another example. I knew a family who, and this came up recently in a different conversation, but I knew a family who their daughter was, in the very minimally affected daughter, was just had a very hard time understanding social norms and social rules and so on. And when she was a child, when she was very young, she just came across as extremely loving. And she would, just give hugs to everyone and would sit on your lap and just be very friendly and so on. And as she got older, and became 10, 11, 12, that behavior did not get under control. And for the longest time, parents were thinking, oh, she's just extremely loving and caring. But it came to a point where it was honestly pretty socially inappropriate that at that age, 10, 11, 12, she would actually go and sit on the lap of male friends of her father.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so it became an issue. And had it been explained, because she could have understood early on because she was such a smart kid, if it had been explained a little bit differently, and sometimes our kids have a hard time understanding reasoning or explanation, and in which case a basic rule would have sufficed.
Yeah. And these are hard things for a parent.
Yes.
Hard things to think about, hard things to implement.
Yes.
Right? Because you're in the phase where you're still thinking of your child as a child.
Yeah.
But if we really truly want to protect them, we have to stay ahead of things.
Absolutely.
It's not the funnest thing.
So sorry, I went completely off topic.
No, I don't think it was off topic at all.
Okay, so I mean, that's one aspect of it, but then sort of the other aspect of it, I think, and it depends again on age.
Yeah.
When
And,
you're
and
look-
this young guy
This
is
is a
12.
very young guy, right?
Yeah.
So I think at that age, really, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm looking back at everything I've ever read and also my own kids when they were that age. It seems very early to start talking about liking someone else or loving someone else, but certainly it's an appropriate age to help differentiate the levels of relationships.
Yes.
So friendship and let's even start back kind of like a stranger, an acquaintance, a friend, a loved one, a family, so on and so forth. And, helping our child understand that there are many different types and levels of relationships, I think is very helpful at that time. I think really important, Shannon, is what you said, which is explaining to our child, just kind of as you said earlier, okay, it's one thing to teach your child their body, right? Mm-hmm. Another thing is just explaining to your child things that are socially acceptable and not. Mm-hmm. Because if we haven't had these conversations and the child's turning 12 and 13 and so, they could actually do a lot of things that the other person considers intrusive and scary.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important, although you have to be careful with these conversations because you never want a child to become terrified of having a social relationship. So I think it's just teaching them to start thinking from someone else's perspective and start thinking, oh, if I like a girl and if I go and, start stroking her hair, how is she going to feel? How is she going to take that? Is that a good thing or bad? Is it okay or not okay? Yeah. And just like maybe making a lesson out of it and, just playing that game of what are the things that are okay and not. Because it is very hard for our kids to take someone else's perspective. That lack of theory of mind tends to influence a million things they do. And this is one of those things. And so often I have, a parent coming and saying, oh, my child just really loves a certain type of material or hair. And all he wants to do is touch other girls' hair. Yeah. And of course, in class, he gets in trouble for that. Yeah. Or, those types of things happen all the time. And so I think it really just goes back to teaching our child what is socially appropriate because of being able to see the other person's perspective. That helps.
It was interesting when Jem was a little bit older than this, it was, really at the forefront of the Me Too movement.
Yes.
And there was a cartoon, there was a little line stick drawing cartoon that was like, here's a guideline. And they did it with tea. Have you ever seen this?
No.
So it says, and it was sort of, tongue in cheek, kind of like, let's make this really clear for people. Yeah. But I actually used it. I think he was more 14 at the time. But it said, it shows the stick drawing of the person saying, would you like tea? Uh-huh. And the other person says no. And so then what do you do? If you ask the person if they want tea and they say no, do you pour it on them? Do you force it down their throat? Do you, no, you listen to the no.
Yeah.
And that in all things in life, tea or anything else,
no has a big meaning.
No has a big meaning.
That's awesome.
And that you have to ask. Mm-hmm. You don't just bring someone tea without asking them.
Right.
You have to ask, is it okay? Now, for some of our kids, that's not going to be, it's not.
They won't understand the example.
Exactly. You have to take it to other things. But for me, I thought, what a great illustration. And all of our boys should have to take a test on this. And some of our girls. But it helped I think what it solidified in our household was when it's somebody else's private space, you always have to ask and you always have to honor the no.
Right.
Which when it's a compulsion is a hard thing.
Yeah, and the more we talk about it, the more I realize there's so many things in this area. Like just teaching someone, what things are okay to say, not say. You always have to ask. What parts are okay to touch, not touch. Yeah. Even look at and not look at.
Staring.
Staring.
There's so much about eye contact early on with kids, and then all of a sudden they're teenagers, and you need to not be looking at the person more than once. It's hard.
And say and not say. So I always think of my dear neighbor.
Yes.
And I feel so bad sometimes because in his past he has been taught that, I don't know, I'm not sure where he gets it, but I'm sure it's from prior education, that like some things that he says maybe are not appropriate. And they're actually okay. Like, so sometimes he'll say something and I'm completely fine with it. And he starts profusely apologizing. Yeah. And I hate that because I feel like, oh my God, like who taught him that he has to be so, destroy himself over something he just did that's completely fine.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful as a parent to just make sure that balance exists because you don't want to crush your child's personality either.
Yeah. But to the heart of the question, is there some place for a parent to go is there anything you recommend to help them to prepare this 12-year-old?
Yeah. I recently wrote a book which hasn't yet been published, but it doesn't really go into all of the things we just talked about, but it goes very deeply into the whole process of social behavior and dating.
Yeah.
And it's really more about kind of what dating is and isn't,
Yeah.
you know, and how to find someone who can be, what is the definition of someone who's a date? What's the definition of a girlfriend or a boyfriend? How do you get there? What are the types of things you can and cannot do? So it does
Gosh,
go into a
everybody
lot of
needs
that.
this book.
Yeah, it's good.
And as soon as it's out, I would recommend that this parent read it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because then it's going to help you set up your child for success.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep our eyes peeled in the meantime.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, and you guys can be writing in questions about this or anything. Feel free to do that. My sister is on the spectrum and she has begun dating. I'm very concerned because my sister is not good with boundaries. She often takes off her shirt if there are any cute boys about. What should I do?
Yeah, so that's actually, we see that in Love on the Spectrum as well, that type of thing. So I feel like this is one of those situations, again, like I said, you have to sit with her and explain the perspective of all the individuals around, but also explain the repercussions. Like we talk about repercussions, what they really are the effect of something over, multiple steps. So you have to sit and talk to her about that. When you take off your shirt, what are all the people there thinking? So just take a picture of a scenario and start talking about it. Because I think a lot of times our kids, our adult siblings or friends or so on, don't really think about what is society thinking in their minds. And I think that helps, because I think if she had a goal and she knew that what's going on, what she's doing is actually going, moving her goal back, I think she would stop. If that doesn't work, you simply have to provide a set of black and white rules. A lot of times our kids need what's okay and what's not okay, and they just live with that. And that's, I think, something very important also to do.
But I also wonder if it's a little confusing because I don't even know how to politically correct say this, but I think for so long we said that women don't have the same sexual urges as men, and yet we know perfectly well that young girls also, that sex is a pleasurable thing, and that they want it too, and they want the approval of whoever it is that they're seeking.
They want love and romance, and yes.
And they want somebody to, respond positively to them. And a young girl taking her shirt off, let's be honest, there are going to be circumstances where there are going to be boys who are going to be like, woohoo.
Yes, that's true.
So they're going to get that positive response from that and feel
yes.
like, well, that's propelling me more towards the romance and the whatever. So there's a lot of mixed signals.
Oh my
On
gosh.
the one hand, society is like, well, there's we're supposed to be past the slut shaming, but we're not.
Right.
And that, people will think poorly of you if you take your shirt off, but the guy that you think is cute is not going to think poorly of you if you take your shirt off.
And that's kind of why I was talking about work through the repercussions, because start with what you actually want. And like when you talk to a lot of girls in their late teens or even older, may want, what they really want is romance and love, right? And then if you think about it and you say, okay, so let's talk about it. You take off your shirt and there's a guy there and he goes, woo, and he actually really wants to come and make out with you and kiss you and so on. But what else is he thinking? Is he thinking, I'm going to stay? Or is he thinking, I'm just going to kiss her and then leave? And probably what you want is a long-term romance. And so like getting the individual to think a little bit further that this is actually not what you want. What you want is the guy who's going to respect you. And like it gets a lot deeper. And that's why I kind of said, it's some of our kids will get it and some of our kids will just need rules until they're able to get it.
Yeah. You brought up Love on the
hard.
Spectrum. Did you see that Kevin Hart, they did the they did the roast of Kevin Hart
Uh-huh.
on Netflix, and
Yes.
one of the jokes that Kevin Hart told
I didn't
was
see
at the
that.
expense of folks on the spectrum.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And he specifically, I don't want to repeat the joke, but dissed Love on the Spectrum,
Oh.
and that the folks that Love on the Spectrum they all got together with TMZ and did a clap back.
Oh, did they? Good for them.
And roasted Kevin Hart. But my favorite thing about it, it's all over social media, you guys look for it. My favorite thing about it is that it ends with Danny Bowman saying, so here's the thing, Kevin Hart, you want to make jokes about us at your roast, then you should invite us.
Oh, I love that.
We're capable of being there
Good
too.
for her.
Don't do it without us, which was my favorite thing.
That's good for
I don't
her.
particularly
That's an
love.
awesome
I don't particularly
answer.
love a roast. I think it's mean. And,
Yeah.
but I
What
loved,
a great answer. I love that she said that.
I totally love that she
Yeah,
said that, and
that's
I hope.
fantastic.
And there's no way he could have not seen it. It's been all over social media.
Right.
So hopefully they'll be included next time. Okay, next question. And you guys were taking questions. We're about halfway through the show, so if you have a question, you should be writing it in right now. I am 34, autistic, engineer who makes a good living. My wife is divorcing me because she says I am, quote, emotionally unavailable. I want to start dating again, but I'm not sure how or when to bring up my previous marriage. Is there a time when I'm expected to disclose this? Do I need to say why she left?
I mean, so yes, let's start with that. Like every relationship should be built on honesty. So with your new relationship, you definitely need to bring it up and talk about anything you want, like that the new partner would like to know. Like having been married before is one of those things you want to share right away.
Okay.
I think the concept, the way that you are interpreting why she left, I don't know that you necessarily, I don't know if your interpretation is right. But certainly that's a little bit more of a private thing, and that doesn't have to be said to any new relationship immediately. But, certain things, you get into a relationship, there's some people who don't want to date someone who's been married before. They just have that, and having been married a few times, I'll tell you that, like, there's a bias against people who've been divorced.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so, one way or another, I think it's something honest to say in in the beginning if you're getting serious with someone. But I think I was telling this to my kids the other day. I think in relationships, you don't necessarily want to think about the end result. You want to kind of think about what's in front of you and how can you improve yourself. Focus on yourself. You can't really modify other people in relationships. You can modify yourself. And the point I think that a relationship is valuable and worth saving is when you feel like you're comfortable with the amount of change you've had to do to yourself. And it doesn't feel like you have to change yourself too much. And you feel like you can be who you are now in the relationship, both of you. And it's very fluent and easy and fun. That's the relationship you should hold on to. Not relationships where you feel like you can't share your background or you can't tell them who you really are, or they see you as, perhaps you are emotionally unavailable, but perhaps you've done a lot of work on it and you're available to a certain extent and you're comfortable with that. I promise you there's going to be someone else out there who feels that's enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. It's like, yes, we all change in relationships, but the changes have to be not excessive for both sides. It has to be to a point where like, oh, I'm willing to compromise on this. Not that I have to give this up, even though it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Can I tell you, from my 20s, I have had a concept, I want to make a game, a board game, that's called the Intimacy Board Game.
You told me this.
Have I told you this before? Because I've been talking about it since my 20s and I don't do anything about it. But that, it's like Candyland, and you have all these spaces and cards and things that you have to do, but you have to play with a partner. And here's the thing. You can never be more than 2 steps ahead or 2 steps behind your partner.
Okay.
Because that's the whole thing that I learned about dating, was that if you're already on the space of that you want to be married and everything is settled and the other person isn't, it's never going to work. Like, you got to be within enough close spaces.
Right.
And that if one, because you got to be listening to your partner and what they want. If they want more information,
Yeah.
whatever that is, emotionally
Right,
unavailable.
right.
I mean, is that just you didn't say when you were depressed?
Right.
Right? Whatever it is, if that's what they're looking for, you can't be more than 2 spaces behind it. There would be
Interesting.
challenges that you would go through, but you have to arrive at certain spaces
Within 2 spots of each other.
and arrive at the same time, or you can't further on until the other partner gets to
Right.
that spot.
Oh, I see, I
mean,
see.
because when
Oh,
you get to
interesting.
physical intimacy, if one person is ready and the other person isn't, you got to be on that same space together.
That's so true.
But also, getting married is one of those spaces
That's
you
so
can't
true.
move on until your partner, or having children.
Yes.
That there are certain spaces that you're stuck there until the
Yeah.
other person arrives there. But that you and I don't know whether it's 2 spaces or how many spaces that you can't be at. And I see this. I mean, I certainly saw this for myself when I was dating, which seems like 1,008 years ago. But I see this for my friends that are single, that, they will be on a different space than the person they're with, and it
Yeah.
causes so much discord.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, too, it's funny how everybody's perception of things, it would never have occurred to me that people would say, I don't want to marry somebody who's been married before. But I find that the opposite is true. That at a certain age, and amongst my friends, that there are people who are like, if they've never been married before, they go, oh, there must be something wrong with you. If
sure.
you're this age and you've never been married, and they don't want to marry people who've never been married.
Well, that's the same thing they say about people who've been married. It's like, I wonder why they got a divorce. There must be something wrong with them.
What is
So it's so funny.
People
I
are
mean,
so
that's how
close
we
down.
interpret things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but I think it all also, like, a lot of it, and since I have 3 kids who are all in their kind of like 20s, I want to say 20s, but my oldest is in her 30s.
And can we also say that she is newly a doctor
And he's
herself?
newly a doctor of
Congratulations.
psychology. I know, I'm so proud of
I
her.
could just weep. That just kills me.
Yes, it's incredible. You remember writing her letter of rec?
I remember the first time I met her was when she turned 16.
Yeah.
And she had just gotten her driver's license.
Really?
That was the day that I met her.
Amazing.
And she had the little cherry bug.
The bug, yeah.
And she was
yeah.
16 years old and
Amazing.
wise beyond her years
I know,
at 16.
she's amazing.
But the fact that she is now a doctor, just
31.
My
I'm 31 years old.
goodness.
Yeah, and she's
What an amazing person.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah, it's just fabulous.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I mean, congratulations to her. And, she had posted on her Instagram something I don't remember, and I had written like, I can't believe how proud of you I am and all that. And then she wrote back, it's only because of all the games you used to play with us when we were kids. And so it's funny because when they were kids, I used to sit with them, and I don't even know why, but I used to talk about the id, ego, and superego, which are Freud's concepts for our viewers. And, the id is the pure you. It's the crazy you. It's the nothing is controlling it, right? It's your all of your
Pure.
wishes and desires and and the super ego is your conscience, which is usually shaped by your parents. And then the ego, which, in lay terminology, we look at the ego as a bad thing, but in Freudian psychology, the ego is kind of the compromise between the id and the superego. It's like the who you really are.
Okay.
Is your wild side and your controlled side, and they go together to form who you really are.
Okay.
And so I used to talk to them about that as children, but we used to call it, I think, Ivan, Edward, and Sam, right? It was like the name.
Oh my
I know, isn't that
gosh.
funny? And I'd be like, Ivan, he's always crazy. And then there's Sam, who wants all the rules, and like that's how
Right.
we used to do it. And so she referred back to that. Because they were little, they were like 5 years old. I used to talk about that.
Wow.
So it's funny. But anyway, yes, I'm very proud of her, and thank you for bringing it up.
She's
And she
amazing.
loves you, of course, as do all of my kids.
I
As do all of my kids.
Well, I love all 3 of your. They're all so different.
They're so different.
and they're so amazing in their own rights.
Thank you. Yes, they
and
are.
they're just lights on this planet.
Yeah, Sunny, as you know that I'm talking about my
Let's
kids,
talk
why
about
not?
your kids, yeah.
Sunny, my son, who has done a lot of stuff, but is now a YouTuber, is kind of like very happy because his channel passed 50,000 subscribers.
Nice.
So I'm like, okay, great, let's keep you going. So his
Do you
channel.
want to tell people what the channel is?
It's called A Grain of Salt on YouTube. And it's just like historical stories. It's like stuff that's happened, but they're hilarious. Like, he's very good at it. You should listen to it.
I just
It's
need to
so
be
much
listening
fun.
to it in the car. I'm
Yes,
so
yes,
inept
yes.
at, we talk about this, and I just need Jem to set it up for me so that I can push the button and listen to it in the car.
Yeah, you love it. You love his voice to begin with, you know, and
he does the
he's done-
voiceover for the start of the show.
Yes, and he's done a lot of voice acting as
Yeah.
well, but he really loves his channel.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so that's what he's doing, and he's busy doing that. And then A Grain of Salt on
Grain
YouTube.
of salt.
And then my other daughter right now is taking the exam for the MCAT, so hopefully she'll get into medical school. We'll
I
see.
cannot wait till she can be my doctor.
I know, it'll be so good. Both of us.
Well, and she, all of your kids have this sensibility too. And I'm so grateful that I got to connect with each one of them on something different in a different way.
Oh yeah, they love you all.
And just
I'm so glad they got to spend time with you each at different times. Yeah.
Yeah, but Sunny, the most interesting
Sunny
because
is the funniest, yeah.
the both of your girls got to intern at Autism Live.
Worked for you, correct?
And that was super fun. And they had projects that they did that still live in our hearts. But Sunny,
Sunny wrote a script for a film, and you were one of the actors.
It was
in the
I
film.
was a last minute fill-in the
was
night before.
fantastic.
They were
It
like,
was
we need a woman about this age.
And I had no idea at this time. And I said, and then you said, "Do you know that I was an actor? Like, do you know my background?" I was like, "No, I had no idea."
To me. That's so funny to me. But can I tell you what that did for me? Because it was short notice. I had to be there the next day to film with Sunny, and he was not only had written but was starring in it.
Yes, he was
So
in it,
there
yes.
was a scene with him, and they had a location, and I had to arrive the next day and be off book and whatever. And I was like, yeah, no, sure, I can do that. But Jem was on spring break.
Okay.
And so I said, I just got to bring my kid. If it's okay if I bring my kid, and they were like, sure. And he didn't know this side of me at all either, like you.
So it was kind of to see that.
Yes, and so we arrived at this house, and this was crazy. That in the scene, I was supposed to lose my mind, and there was a
Yes,
painting.
yes.
And Sunny would hold up the painting, and I would try to stab
it,
him.
yes,
and I would
yes.
stab the painting and miss him, and we only had 2 paintings, so we only had 2 shots at
Okay.
getting it right. And Sunny was like, well, just go for it. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I don't think so. If I miss and stab you in the head, your mother is never going to speak to me again. We're not doing this. And so we had to choreograph the whole thing. And I had done fight choreography, so I wasn't nervous about that. But my son watched this, and he was like, I had no idea you could do that.
That's amazing.
It was mind-boggling
Yeah.
to him. And then, of course, the next day that we needed to film, we were in a real courthouse down in
yes,
LA.
that's right.
And we were in and Jem didn't have to come with me, and he was like, no, I want to come with you to this. I need to see this.
Yeah.
And what was hilarious, I didn't realize they're not soundproof. And I had to, again, it was a woman who loses her mind.
Yes,
just loses
yes,
her mind and
yes.
everything. And they had said, just improvise and be screaming and yelling, whatever. And then we'd filmed the scene, and we went to get in the elevator on the way down, and there were people in the elevator. They were like, I'd love to know what was going on in there. Did you hear that?
Really?
Did you hear that crazy woman? Because the woman's name is Mary Hitler.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
and I remember one of the things that I was screaming that they did not keep in the film, but if you know Shakespeare, there's the Titus Andronicus, and what she does is they take her sons, and it's terrible. They cut their heads off and they bake them into a pie.
and
she
feed
eats
it
the
to
pie.
her. Yes, yes.
And so I was screaming and saying, I'm gonna cut your heads off and bake it in a pie. It was out of control. It was out of control, but it was so much fun, and I got to know him and all of his
Yeah.
friends, and
Yeah.
then it got into festivals, and we would go
Oh yeah,
and watch
did
it at
really
the
well.
festival.
I know,
So
I love that.
he's
I wish they would do that again. All of those friends are like
Yes.
my kids. They're all over us all
they're
the time.
adult men now, and
Yes,
yes,
they
but they
are.
should make another film. And I've already told them that I want to be their Ratzenberger, that I have to have a small role in everything.
Absolutely.
Too funny. Okay, we've digressed greatly.
Sorry,
okay,
yes.
No, my fault. But your kids are amazing.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, so my son is 16 and has shown no interest in dating. Should I be pushing him to date just to try it, or should I wait for him to show interest? I'm worried that he will miss out on having a partner if we don't push him.
Yeah, no, I don't think you push him. I think I mean, it depends on the relationship you have with your child, but I would just talk to him and ask him and just say, do you have any interest in, having a relationship with someone? Yeah. But 16 is still pretty young, honestly. Yeah. Not a lot of people have relationships at 16. Not a lot of men are dating at 16. So I don't think you need to worry about it yet, but I think it's definitely okay to have a conversation and just talk to him and ask him if he has any interest. And maybe maybe he is interested, but things are holding him back because he's afraid.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been thinking about a lot lately how much COVID has messed up an entire generation of kids and set clocks at different times in different ways, and that there are a whole group of kids that just like didn't. And it's funny, at each age group it's slightly different, but there are things that are cattywampus and not in the order that we expect them to be in.
That's true.
And I feel that part of
things are different. You're absolutely right.
And I feel like part of what we need to be as parents is accepting of that the old timelines aren't necessarily relevant right now.
Yeah.
And that things are a little different for 16-year-olds, but they're a little bit different for even 25-year-olds.
They're
it's just a little
different.
weird.
Everything is very different, Shannon. If you think about just the way you date. When I was writing this book, I had to really research that a lot because, people. When you think about dating, the current generation and even the generation before, no one thinks about, let's just go out and we will meet. That's like the kind of like a side thing that could potentially happen. But if you really, the first go-to is social, right? It's social media. It's the various sites that allow you to meet other people.
And sliding into DMs. This whole thing, it just mystifies me. I'm like, what? How do you slide into, and what is the DM? And I had to have somebody explain it to me. I don't understand the lingo.
Well, that's just like, having a direct conversation with someone when there's a group.
Why are we calling it sliding into somebody's DMs?
Because you start with a group and you're like secretly now making it a personal conversation. But I've sat with my kids when they are just watching TV and at the same time looking at like Bumble or Tinder or so on, right? And it's such a fascinating thing.
It's a different world.
It's completely different. And especially it's completely different because a lot of what you see on these sites is not true.
Yeah.
Right? People completely disguise who they really are. And it's just part of the new reality.
Yeah.
So there's a whole nother thing of like, is that the best way to date? And if you're dating that way, how long does it take for you to actually get to know the person and all that sort of stuff? So
I want to retire and be a yenta.
I swear.
And maybe just be a yenta for the spectrum.
I love that.
Right?
That would be the best thing possible.
People up. And have you watched the Indian matchmaking?
Oh my God!
And Seema, I'm Seema from Mumbai, and she's like, I will show you, and I can picture me doing that, being like, let me show you a nice girl for you, right?
That's hilarious. I love that. I love it.
But why don't we have that for the spectrum? Why is there no Yenta service for that?
I think didn't somebody come up with like a social media thing for on the spectrum dating? I thought they did.
I don't know if they did. It didn't last.
Right. I think it didn't work out. I don't remember the reasons. I don't remember the name of it.
I don't either.
Because I remember thinking, this is a really good idea.
Yeah.
But it didn't last, and I'm not sure why. Yeah.
And I know even for Love on the Spectrum, whenever they're doing another season, they always reach out to us and they're like, do you have anybody who would like to do this? Or do you know somebody? Because it isn't just people on the spectrum dating people on the spectrum, of course. That doesn't make sense. But the ask of, do you know people around this age range who are interested in dating somebody on the spectrum?
Right.
And I know that they reach out wide and far because it's not easy.
Right.
In a way, they're kind of yenting.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's so hard.
Well, when you said Yenta, I immediately envisioned Fiddler on the Roof.
Yes.
Yenta,
Yes.
like that would be
I'm
you.
totally thinking we're going to see
That
that,
would be
on
you.
Saturday.
Oh
We're
my
seeing
God.
Fiddler on the Roof. A friend of ours is playing Tevye.
That's
so-
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's my favorite of all time musical ever.
Well, it's playing in See Me, and our friend is Tevye.
That's amazing.
Let me know if you want
That's
tickets.
amazing.
But anyway, it's been his lifelong dream.
Oh,
And so we're all
wonderful.
like, okay, he's finally playing Tevye. He's finally at the age where he should play
That's
Tevye.
awesome.
So for 16, maybe we're waiting to see if...
I think so. I think it's not something you want to make an issue of because, like, our kids have enough things where they feel inadequate. So adding something else and saying, why aren't you doing this, is you just don't want to make an issue of it. But I do think that you can have a conversation and just say, do you have any interest?
Yeah.
But you should actually have a conversation because a lot of times it comes out that our child is just afraid. They do have an interest, but they don't know how to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And another similar question, where can I send my 19-year-old to learn about dating? He has asked several girls out, but they have all
You gotta
said
get this
no.
book out.
How can I help him? Yeah, I think your book is the ticket here.
Yeah, it's super important. I think there's so many things in there that are just about, how to for our kids. And I think it's just, it's vital to get this out because I think most kids learn from their peers
Yeah,
how to do this.
yeah. But as you're saying this, I have to tell you, I'm thinking, okay, it's great that you wrote this for people who are neurodivergent, but the truth is everybody needs it.
It's so funny
Everybody
you say
needs
that because I sent that to Sangam when I first wrote it, and he said, and I said I wrote this for our adult kids, I actually wrote it because I met a young man who was so delightful. Like, first of all, a beautiful young man, like just absolutely gorgeous, and just extremely sweet and kind. And it bothered me that his dad was telling me that he approaches, but he just doesn't know how to. And a lot of like girls immediately discover his weaknesses, is how the dad said it, and kind of like they are turned off. And it just like was very sad for me. I had a conversation with him for a while, and I was just like, what a delightful young man. So then I thought, I gotta write something which would help him. And that's how it started. So I started writing some stuff for him, and then I realized there's so much more to be said. So then I wrote a lot more, and it turned into this thing. I sent it to Sangam, and he said, are you kidding me? Why kids on the spectrum? I'm gonna give this to my son. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's true. Everybody needs some advice there.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
just it's the wild, wild west out there. So when do we think? We don't know yet.
I don't
about the
know,
book.
honestly. This is another one where I think I might just self-publish because my intention is just to get it out there. And publishing takes a year.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's its own little thing.
It is. It's so many back and forths and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like easier to just get this out there.
Okay, so I would love to take, because that's all the questions that I have, and you guys, Rodney has said hello, but you guys haven't written in questions about anything. You got like 8 minutes to send a question in. But I'd like to take a minute to talk about some of the things that are in the book, some of the reasons that, because you were saying at the beginning, you thought this was going to be more about what's the step-by-step.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have a question that's that so much, but I want to know what's in the book.
Yeah. And let me try to retrieve that. Since then, I've
Not where
written
your
so
head
many
is at
other
right
things.
now, I know.
Well, no, because this past weekend I obsessed over the other series,
Yes,
right? So it's
yeah.
kind of like that's in my
there's
head.
stuff coming, you guys.
There's good stuff
Very
coming, yeah.
exciting.
So the dating book, I think, like the parts that I spent a lot of time on had to do with the psychology of what goes on during the course of dating. It wasn't. I mean, there's a lot of like technique, procedure, this is how you do this, this is what you do, in what order, all of that. But there was a lot, every stage where I wrote something about like, this is the stage where you try to find someone, whether I did a whole section on Tinder and all these, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it was more about the thoughts that go in your head when you're failing. And I really focused a lot on that because I know that that's the experience of a lot of our kids, our teenagers. And I think the most important thing I tried to get across was this, resilience and not giving too much meaning to the thoughts that we have when we don't succeed, because that's what happens, right? You are rejected, and which is fine. Not everyone has to accept us.
Yeah.
And once you have that initial rejection, it blows up into this whole catastrophe in your head where you just feel like a failure. And if you don't let that pass, it controls you for a long time. And assume you have a couple of failures. You're not going to have every success. And then I went into a lot of how every failure is really valuable because it's supposed to teach you something, and what can you learn, and how can you let those bad thoughts go, and how can you focus yourself on maybe I can do this differently, or what are some things I can do to strengthen myself. So a lot of the book is really about just making sure that our kids, as they take these steps, these brave steps, which I went into a lot of detail on what steps to take, how. But then I went a lot into this was just a date. This was not the end of your life. Does not mean you're going to be alone. This does not mean you're not going to have a relationship in the future. Don't catastrophize. That's a lot of what I was trying to do.
It's interesting because I'm obsessed right now. I think I told you we have to move. And so we've been looking at apartments. And we go and we look at apartments, and you walk into the apartment, and the first thing you're like, can I live here? And you start to picture, okay, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put that there. And then as you get through the apartment, you always find something. That's like,
God,
I don't know if I can live with this, right? And then we leave each apartment, and we're like, is this still in the running, or is this getting jettisoned because of whatever? And it's been reminding me of dating.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole thing. But every time we leave, I have a little bit of panic about we're not going to find something.
Yeah.
We're not going to find something. And it totally reminds me of my girlfriends that they're like, well, I went on another date and it's not the guy, so I'm not going to find somebody.
I'm depressed.
And I always say to them, but there is a future in which you are with somebody, and until the day that you meet them, you're not with them.
Right.
It's like the Christmas present that you're not unwrapping yet.
Right.
You're going to find it, but the anxiety of it.
Yeah,
I know we're going to find an apartment.
Right.
Because we have to.
Right.
We will. And I believe that most people find somebody in their lifetime that they feel a connection with, whether that's the thing that lasts or not. I think most people find somebody at some point. But the whole thing of, until you find it, you don't have someone. Right. And I think that anxiety is so particularly poignantly hard for people.
Yeah.
And I see that for people who aren't on the spectrum, and it makes my heart break for people who are on the spectrum, because that bit of understanding a mythical future that isn't guaranteed by any stretch of the imagination, but it's, people do tend to find someone.
Well, it's really because of this kind of, when you look at it from an anthropology perspective, it's the fear of being alone.
Yeah.
And we all have it. Everyone has it. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that you're absolutely right, Shannon. It's blown out of proportion completely. I mean, I know a lot of people who are alone and extremely happy to be alone, first of all.
Yeah.
Just think of the number of people in this world and the odds that you will never meet someone. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But the truth is, you will meet someone, and there are things you can do to increase the possibility and probability of that. Like, first of all, you can do a lot of things to yourself.
Yeah.
And secondly, you can be brave and enter the social world as often as you can. It's like, what was that Jim Carrey movie, The Yes, where he had to say yes to everything?
Yes,
do you remember?
Yes.
So it's kind of like that, too. It's like, if you let the anxiety get you to a point where you just don't want to go out anymore, you're not going to clubs because that was a bad experience. You're not going to commit to anyone because that was a bad experience. You're not going to, do something because, I'm sure I'm going to fail at that. Or I'm going to avoid this because I'm really not good at that, or all these things, right? if you let that bubble up in you and not say yes to every opportunity, yes to everything you want to do, yes, you are actually putting a wall, and you're actually reducing your own possibilities. It's like if you were to say, I'm never going to look in like whatever location because I don't like that city. We don't know. Places have changed.
Yeah.
You should go and check it out, you know? Though it's like, don't let thoughts that are not real control your decisions. Like, question your own thoughts all the time. And if you get into the habit of doing that, I think you just open yourself up to more possibilities. And then just the fear of being alone causes so many problems. It causes people to stay in the wrong relationship. And that's why I started with this whole process of it's about compromising to the point where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Not beyond that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. It's like, don't be afraid of spending a moment alone, because that's really going to control everything you do.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, there are people who will be like, even afraid of making a choice because what if this is the wrong choice, and their OCD kicks in. And so there's like a million things, but we just have to remind ourselves that we're just selecting a human being that's going to be your best friend and you're going to live through life with it. It's not about anything else. It's really just that.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved the fact that years ago, one of my favorite teachers, I was taking classes with him when he met his wife. Now they've been married for 30 years. But he said, you know, every time I go on a date with her, I just find that I keep saying yes. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying yes and yes and yes. And that...
That's awesome.
Yeah. So exactly what you were saying. Well, what I'm hearing, though, is that there's so much fear and anxiety.
Oh,
which
tremendous.
isn't that funny? That's always what we come back to.
Tremendous
The fear
amount
and
of
the anxiety.
fear and anxiety these
and
days.
that if we could do a fear and anxiety-ectomy, not completely, because I think that there's some fear and anxiety that's worthwhile.
It's beneficial to have a certain level of anxiety, for sure. If you have no anxiety, you're just going to be a couch potato.
Well, or
So-
or somebody's, you know, fodder for somebody who wants to do nefarious things to
Absolutely,
you.
yes.
So you'd be taken advantage of. That's
Right,
what I want to say.
right.
I don't know why my brain can't connect phrases today. Which we don't want that.
Right.
Especially for, I feel like the neurodivergent population is extra at risk because they don't play games.
Absolutely true. I
and they
agree
don't
100%.
lie.
They're honest, they're earnest, they don't have any games. I completely agree. And therefore, it's a harder world for them because just like the concept of being dishonest, the concept of trying to trick someone, those things don't exist for them.
So it's not going to be in their mind. They're not going to recognize the signs of it. And it's funny because you said earlier that it's important that we prepare them, but not over.
Right.
You know, I can think of one person that we knew and loved that started dating, but the mom had spent a great deal of time saying, you know, this and that and the other thing, and don't let people take advantage. And that's what his first date was like. And he finally said something to the girl, which she got very upset.
Oh, really?
Because he was like, you know, and I know you're trying to take advantage of me. And
Oh
she
my
was
gosh,
like,
yeah.
She was like,
yeah.
what in the
Yeah,
heck are you
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah,
We're going to a
yeah.
movie.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have your bank account. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that was it. That
yeah,
was the end of that
yeah.
date. So we have to be careful not to make them over fearful.
That's right.
It's a line.
Absolutely.
We're out of time. But this has been so delightful.
So fun.
and
We had a fun time.
And I just want to say that tomorrow we had to reschedule. We had a doctor who was going to be with us tomorrow talking, a neurologist who's had to reschedule. But so we're doing a show about my top 25 things to teach our kids during the summer
Ooh,
when you've got a
nice.
little bit more time.
That's awesome.
So 25 things. You're not going to teach all of them, but so it's a parent to parent tomorrow.
Fun.
And we'll, you know, it was fun for me putting it together because I was
Nice.
like, ooh, and this is
Absolutely.
like, summer's the ideal time to, so, and it'll be scaled so that no matter where your child is, you know,
I love
there's
it. I love it.
something for everybody. So that's tomorrow. We've got to say goodbye for now, but thank you, Dr. Granpeesheh.
Thank you.
I'm sending all of you, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you there.